Jumanji is an action comedy sequel to the 1995 original film Jumanji starring Robin Williams. Set 21 years after the main events of that film, this one follows 4 high school students that are sent to detention where they come across the game Jumanji, which has magically transformed itself from a board game into a cartridge video game. The 4 decide to play the game, and then they're sucked into the video game where they take on the form of the avatars that they chose, played by Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and Jack Black. Now the way I see it, this could have gone one of 2 ways, considering the premise. You have 4 people that are sent out on an adventure, they have no idea what they're doing, they're completely inexperienced, and they have to complete some quest. This could have been completely cliched and uninspired, or instead of focusing on the quest aspects, they could have focused, as they should have, on the characters themselves and the comedy. That's exactly what they did. This film is a solid comedy with some great humor and some terrific performances by the 4 main cast members. So this time around, the characters are actually sucked into the game, just like Alan Parrish in the first film. And a lot of the humor for this movie comes from the fact that because it's a video game, they use video game logic. So they have, for example, they have a backpack that's essentially a bottomless bag, NPCs with a limited amount of dialogue, cutscenes, levels that start and end as they progress through them. And they do a great job with that, but the real source of humor for this comes from the 4 main cast members themselves. Dwayne Johnson and Karen Gillan are playing similar characters. One is a teenage boy who's essentially afraid of everything, now trapped in the body of this hulking, brutish man. The other is a bookish, somewhat social outcast, now trapped in the body of a sexy, badass woman. They both do a good job with that, but for me, my favorite part of this film was the character of Jack Black. He's playing a teenage girl who is obsessed with her phone, now being stuck in the body of a middle-aged man, and they take full advantage of that. That was the highlight of this film. The moments with Jack Black were the best moments of this film. Kevin Hart, his character was a jock. He's the biggest one of the group, and now he's stuck in the body of a short guy with the worst powers and the most weaknesses. And out of all the characters, he was the one I had having the hardest time believing that he was actually playing his real-life counterpart, because it was Kevin Hart playing Kevin Hart. And I like Kevin Hart. I think he's a funny guy. I think he's a good actor. But I'd like to see him branch out a little bit more and try and be a little more versatile with his acting, because when he keeps playing the same character over and over again, he comes off just really as a one-note person, as a one-note actor. And I'd like to see him do more. I know that he can do more. Along the way, they come across another character, Alex, played by Nick Jonas, and he's someone from the real world that got sucked into the game about 20 years earlier. So they're kind of playing on a similar plot as the first one. And they even reference the first one because Alex has been living in a treehouse that was built by Alan Parrish. And it even has written on one of the boards, Alan Parrish was here. And that raises a question for me. In the original film, after they complete the game, everything gets sucked back into it and reset. So doesn't that mean that Alan Parrish never actually went into the game in the first place? I don't know. Contest. I like the visuals of the movie. They did a really good job with them, but they're imperfect, and I like that about it because it always reminded me that I was watching a video game, so to speak, rather than real life. And for me, that enhanced the experience. Most of the bad guys in the film, they're throwaway villains, they're henchmen, nobody cares. And then there's the main villain of the story, and I'm kind of torn with this because he is extremely one-dimensional. His entire motivation is he stole this jewel so that he could rule Jumanji and control all the animals on the island. That's it. And on the one hand, I can kind of understand why they would have done that, because the story is about the heroes, about their journey and their development throughout the film, and they didn't want to take, too much time and effort away from them to develop this essentially non-essential character. But at the same time, they did take a little bit of time to give him some backstory, as well as during a couple scenes during the movie they cut away from the heroes in order to focus on this guy and show what he was plotting. So I think what they could have done a little bit more to make him more three-dimensional, or just kill him off during the cutscene, during the flashback scene, and then just have basically every villain on the island going after this jewel and vying for control over Jumanji. Either way would have worked. So, yeah, like I said, I can understand why they did it, but I think they could have done something else to make it more interesting. All in all, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle is a fun, entertaining movie with some good humor and great performances, and it's the kind of movie you can tell everyone who worked on it had a really fun time making it. Overall, I give the film a 7.5 out of 10, and if you haven't seen it yet, I really recommend that you do. Well guys, that's what I got. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.